Prison is a system that has been around for centuries as a way to confine those who have broken the law in any type of way. The purpose of prison is to rehabilitate and try to make the prisoners law-abiding citizens. Rehabilitation in prison is an important subject for the simple fact that we as a society are allowing our tax money to go to a for-profit system that may be hurting our communities more than helping them. According to the NAACP, the United States makes up only 5% of the world's population, but holds 25% of the world's prison population. This is becoming a problem because the majority of the people who become incarcerated have a high chance of re-entering the system. In fact, as reported by the Department of Justice, within 5 years of the prisoner's release, about 3/4 of the prisoners released were rearrested, causing a never-ending revolving door, making the prison system pointless source of see. This problem is worth investigating because it will show us where the taxpayer money is really going and what is being done in the system to actually help lower the crime rates. Also, it tells us which form of imprisonment is more beneficial since we know not all prison house rehabilitation program. Everyone is affected by the prison system, mostly the generation of families who have seen their relatives go in and out, and it's causing a generational curse between them. Many of us become products of our environment, and there's no one to stop this cycle. Rehabilitation in prisons can put an end to this if it's done correct. You would think that since the number of prisoners has increased tremendously, that the crime rate would have risen as well. But no, U.S. crime rates are the lowest they've been in 40 years, but it's not clear how much of this drop is a result of locking more people up. In Canada, for example, violent crimes declined in the 1990s almost as much as it did in the United States. Yet Canada's prison population dropped during this time, and its per capita incarceration rate is about 1/7 that of the United States. Moreover, while U.S. incarceration rates have steadily risen for 4 decades, our crime rates have fluctuated, rising through the 1970s, falling, and then rising in the 1980s, and falling since 1993. Harvard University sociologist Bruce Western believes that increased incarceration accounts for only about 10% of the drop in crime rates. William Spellman, a professor of public affairs at the University of Texas, puts the figure at about 25%. Even if the higher figure is accurate, 3/4 of the crime decline had nothing to do with imprisonment. Other causes include changes in drug markets, policing strategies, and community initiatives to reshape behavior. What if I told you one of the most lucrative forms of income for the United States was its justice system? Would you believe me? I would. Think about it. You have to literally pay to live decently in jail and pay for probation. Why would all these continue if the private sector is not making any money off it? At the end of the day, it's all business. In the 1990s, as lawmakers campaigned to get tough on crime, America built a new prison every 2 weeks and still cannot meet demand for prison beds. Violent crime has fallen by over 51% since 1991, and property crime has decreased by more than 43%. Although the crime rate has dropped steadily to about half of what it was in 1991, spending on jails and prisons reached nearly $81 billion in 2010. Today, nearly 7 million people in this country are incarcerated, on probation, or on parole. The politics of fear and anger fueled tough on crime policies, including mandatory minimum sentences, extraordinarily harsh and racially disparate penalties for even minor drug offenses, and the explosion of life sentences without parole. That led to the unprecedented and unparalleled incarceration rate in America today. Private prisons operated by for-profit corporations multiplied it from 5 in 1998 to 100 in 2008, and profits have increased by more than 500% in the last 20 years, creating perverse incentives and hindering efforts to reform sentencing laws, emphasize rehabilitation goals, and reduce the prison population. Education is one of the many ways rehabilitation takes form. More recently, in our state public schools and college programs, such as Florida Virtual Schools, have allowed prisoners the ability to get a GED and enter vocational programs in a matter of 24 months, passing into law in March of 2018. This new model is known as post-secondary workforce education, which was reported by the Miami Herald. This was something big for our state, since Florida law prohibited state funds to be used to educate inmates. But soon after, Florida's correctional agency had made budget cuts towards rehabilitation programs, such as transitional housing, reentry programs, and substance abuse services, as stated by the Orlando Weekly, 3 months after passing the post-secondary workforce education program, which basically devalues the issue at hand. America is at its tipping point. In a country that continues to lead the world in locking up its own people, mass incarceration has emerged in recent years as the defining civil rights issue. A movement has blossomed in which formerly incarcerated people lead alongside diverse and influential allies, powerfully capturing what's at stake. That runaway use of incarceration dehumanizes poor people and people of color, damages already marginalized communities, does not advance public safety, and siphons public resources with no social benefit. In a time of deep political and ideological division, the fight for justice is more urgent than ever. At the same time, the need to reform our criminal justice system remains a point of agreement among a public made increasingly aware of injustices, leaders of red and blue states alike, and the local government actors who are in charge of delivering nearly all of our nation's justice system. Stemming the flow of people into jail begins by building knowledge and awareness through stories and data that document the human toll of jail and track local incarceration trends across the country. That must be paired with on-the-ground comprehensive work, expanding alternatives to arrest, prosecution, and bail are smart, safe ways to downsize jails. But the real difference starts here with the awareness.